Good evening and welcome. Regulatory probes into the wild fluctuations of Next Media's share prices last month have led to at least 15 people arrested over alleged stock manipulation acts.
Making a total profit of more than $38 million, the arrestees include civil servants and those with triad backgrounds. As Kana Chu reports, their bank accounts have now been frozen.
It's been a month since media mogul Jimmy Lai was arrested over national security law-related charges. Supporters of the pro-democracy figure initially appeared to be behind Next Media's surging stocks, but a regulatory probe is now attributing the phenomenon to alleged stock manipulation. Suspected of conspiracy to defraud and money laundering, 15 people aged 22 to 53 have so far been arrested.
It is very likely that some investors were attracted by the massive increase in trade volume, which is a false market situation presented by these culprits or these arrested persons.
On August 7th, the last trading day before Jimmy Lai's arrest, 1 million shares were traded at a price of 9 cents per share. In the next 3 trading sessions ending August 12, the transaction volume skyrocketed to 7.1 billion shares, an increase of more than 4,000%. Prices too surged from a historic low of 0.075 cents to $1.96 before plummeting sharply back to 0.65 cents. Over the course of 2 days, the arrestees allegedly engaged in a total of 13,223 transactions. The close to 1.7 billion number of shares handled accounted for nearly a quarter of all trades at the time. Profiting over $38 million off the maneuver, some of the arrested persons are said to have relied on WhatsApp and a pump and dump exercise to facilitate the intensive stock trading.
On a number of occasions, after they offer to sell their stock, and before their selling order could be executed in the market, they bought back the stocks immediately.
Ricky Tam, chairman of the Hong Kong Institute of Investors, said reportings on stock manipulation usually require at least 2 to 3 years' worth of evidence. But he warned that it is illegal for those without relative licenses to use social media platforms to call for stock purchases. Kana Chu, TVB News.
Hong Kong today reported 5 new local COVID-19 infections.
There were also 7 imported cases from India, Iran, and the Philippines. Jackie Lin reports.
2 of the 5 new locally acquired infections were detected through the Universal Community Testing Program. The patients include a 39-year-old woman who works in a restaurant on Patterson Street, Causeway Bay. Her 5-year-old son tested negative before his eye surgery on Tuesday, but in another virus test done after the operation, he tested positive. Health authorities believe the boy has already recovered from the coronavirus.
One of the postulations is that patient has now recovered, so the patient has very low viral load, which can also explain why the patient has negative result of the default saliva COVID test on the 8th of September.
The father is now under medical surveillance. Another case, a 57-year-old woman, is also a restaurant worker. She works in Yuen Long and lives in Tin Shui Wai. 3 other local cases are linked to previous infections. They were diagnosed during quarantine. Since January, asymptomatic patients have accounted for around 1/4 of some 4,900 COVID-19 infections recorded in Hong Kong.
As we have passed 10 weeks from the start of this third wave, we still have 10 cases on average per week. So that is a number that we cannot take very lightly.
Despite a downward trend in case counts, authorities have called for continued vigilance among the public. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Starting Saturday, only 57 community testing centers will continue operation and will remain open until Monday. The official in charge of the scheme says that could help locate about 100 silent carriers still undetected in the community.
But as Dong Yeo-nia reports, a government health advisor says that estimate is way overblown.
Many rush to get free COVID-19 tests before the government scales back its universal testing scheme Saturday. This resident at a Shatin-based center said online registration is full and wanted to push his luck by walking in. Meanwhile, a group of retired civil servants distributed specimen bottles to residents in remote areas of the outlying islands. They're helping plug a location loophole that the government vowed to tackle. So far, 21 new COVID-19 cases have been found through the program. The official in charge, Secretary for Civil Service Patrick Nip, estimates close to 100 silent carriers are still hiding in the community based on a scale-up of the scheme's detection rate. He is urging more people get tested. But government health advisor Gabriel Leung is challenging that figure.
We probably think that there is not quite that many based on these updated parameters, including, importantly, the daily number of reported cases. Probably we're looking at somewhere between 10, 20, 30.
He said the greatest accomplishment of the scheme is a ramp-up of the city's testing capacity. While Hong Kong is increasing the purchase of a potential COVID vaccine, the UK's University of Oxford paused its world-leading clinical trial due to the jab's side effects. But local authorities are confident with the safety of its vaccine orders.
We have the scientific committees under Department of Health. The experts in this vaccine has played a very significant role in reviewing important data on effectiveness, safety, and also availability.
Gabriel Leung says there have been COVID-19 resurgences in the southern hemisphere during the cold season, and he calls on Hong Kong residents to be mentally prepared for a possible fourth wave later this year. Zhong Yao-nie, TVB News.
Government departments will fully resume normal public services on Tuesday. The decision was made as the epidemic situation has stabilized. Measures will still be taken to reduce the number of people at offices. This includes introducing flexible working hours for government staff, as well as using video conferencing instead of face-to-face meetings. The government also warned that some bureaus and departments may need to resume their services at a later time. The United States has revoked visas of more than 1,000 Chinese nationals under a presidential proclamation due to deemed security risks. The acting head of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf, said the order affected Chinese graduate students and researchers with ties to the Chinese military. He said rescinding their visas was to prevent them from stealing sensitive research, including coronavirus analysis. The action was part of America's response to China's curbs on democracy in Hong Kong. Beijing said it resolutely opposes any moves to restrict Chinese students from studying in the U.S. A U.S. State Department spokeswoman said legitimate Chinese students and scholars would continue to be welcomed in America. About 360,000 Chinese nationals study in the U.S. Meanwhile, fires struck the Moria refugee camp on the Greek island of Lesbos on Wednesday for the second straight day. Wednesday's fire broke out inside parts of the camp that were not affected in the first blaze. No injuries were reported. The ignition sparked an exodus of migrants from the area, some of whom were later flown to mainland Greece. 4,000 of the migrants who left the camp for the island's main port later clashed with police, but nobody was arrested. Camp Moria had been under a coronavirus lockdown at the time the first fire broke out. Officials believe the original blaze was started by camp residents, angered by the lockdown measures. The exact causes of the fires are now being investigated. This as the migration crisis continues to stoke tensions within the EU. Many southern European countries argue they are forced to house a disproportionate number of refugees under Brussels' current laws.
Amid escalating China-U.S. tensions, the U.S. government agreed to sell one of its residential properties in Hong Kong to a local developer. Hang Lung Properties has won the bid for the U.S. consulate's staff compound in Chusan Hill for $2.56 billion. The complex is in one of the city's most upscale neighborhoods. The project manager says the purchase is a vote of confidence in Hong Kong's future. They plan to build multiple luxury residences there. The current structure consists of 6 apartment buildings overlooking Deepwater Bay, spread over almost 95,000 square feet. The U.S. government said the sale would not affect its operation in the SAR and was part of its global reinvestment program. The deal is expected to close by the end of the year. And back here in Hong Kong, the Petter Building is being relisted as a Grade 1 historic building. That's according to the Antiquities Advisory Board. The privately owned building located in Central was previously categorized as Grade 2. The new Grade 1 status stipulates the building is of outstanding merit, which means every effort should be made to preserve it if possible. The 9-story structure was built almost a century ago. That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.